Mental health, no place for her to go. Doesn't even have any shoes on her feet. And this is a result of, I don't know, government defunding mental health institutes.
Converted into affordable housing, possibly something like this. Great news for her 5-year-old investment.
Absolutely. Yeah, I thought of that back in 2015, 16.
In fact, 8 abandoned schools and lots from West End to Collier Heights will go from APS to the city's land trust to develop.
The AUDC, the Development Corporation, it will be a lease. It'll be like a 50-year lease. Vacant properties that we've identified that are too small to develop to be a new school, or the school system doesn't have a need for it.
A minimum of 20% of each development would be for people who take home 50% of the area's median income. In other words, in 2024, that means a family of 1 could make no more than $38,000, and a family of 3 around $48,000. A 1-bedroom would be about $1,000, and a 3-bedroom just short of $1,400 a month.
Something affordable for people to be able to come, still be close to the city, and still have someplace nice to live. Really excited to be at the point of being on the other end of the conversation of what development looks like.
Kevin Stewart, Fox 5 News. Proved it with charts.
It was under control during the Trump administration, well below $3 a gallon, 35% jump in home prices, folks.
Even CNN admits it.
When it comes to the economy, groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Yet Harris still says,
deportation. Instead of deporting one drug-dealing illegal, Kamala picked him for a jobs program, a job he couldn't legally hold, helping clear his criminal record. Kamala's hand-picked illegal then nearly killed a woman. It could have been prevented, but Kamala put her liberal values ahead of our safety.
My values have not changed.
That's what scares us. Kamala is dangerously liberal. Make America Great Again Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Thank you. And if you'd like to fill out an adoption application for Gianna, visit angelsrescue.org or go to fox5atlanta.com, navigate to the Good Day section, and click on Pet of the Day. Stay with us. We're going to be right back.
Avoiding campfire smoke is hard.
Is this for real?
Hiring
is getting this deal done. And I'm not going to disclose private conversations, but I will tell you, I've had direct conversations with the Prime Minister, with the President of Israel, with Egyptian leaders, and with our allies. And I think we've made ourselves very clear this deal needs to get done in the best interest of everyone in the region, including getting those
A
hostages
two-state
out.
solution you want?
I mean, we saw the latest
That ain't gonna work.
example of what happened with the 6 most recently, one of whom was an American citizen.
What do you say to those that say that's not enough, that stopping the 2,000-pound bombs the one time wasn't enough, that this administration, your possible administration, has to do more?
Well, we are doing the work of putting the pressure on all parties involved to get the deal done. But let me be very clear also. I support Israel's ability to defend itself. And I support the need for Palestinians to have dignity, self-determination, and security as we move forward and get a 2-state deal done. But right now, the thing we need to get
Ain't
done
gonna
is
work.
the hostage deal and the ceasefire deal. We need a ceasefire. We need the hostage deal.
Two-state deal. Ah, bless.
Last month, and a politicized business environment. Now, briefly on that, you might remember the European Union put tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Why did they do that? Well, the CCP overproduced them.
On it, it's a crazy world we're living in right now, and the first thing I think about is, why did he have a gun? Why did he have a rifle? Why is he mentally ill? And how is he able to, in Florida, I guess it's a little easier to do that, but up here in Bucks County, we keep tabs of things like that.
What has the world come to? This is a great country, but anyone who's trying to take another life, especially a former president, is just unspeakable. It's unheard of. Life is sanctity. But it's just unfortunate this man has placed his life on the line, not once but twice, for this country. God bless him. God bless America. I hope it gets better.
The first thought I had is that I hope he was okay. Also thought we need to do something about guns in this country, especially when I heard that it was an assault rifle. That is going to make assassination attempts very easy.
Regards to
Smuggled into
assassination
the
of Donald
country.
Trump, I think it's crazy. I think he's good for our country, and I still don't know why people are trying to kill him. I think it's out of control. I think the Democrats and the Republicans in this country should get together and work as a unit.
And I think that with just this low-level attempts on the president, it's going to embolden real threats to act. And I think this needs to be dealt with seriously. And I blame the current people in power.
Like I said, I think there's a lot of negative rhetoric right now. I think, people are painting different sides in the worst possible light that they can. I think that goes both ways.
In the aftermath of the second attempt on Trump's life, most of the discourse is centered on investigating what happened and understanding what changes should be made to Trump's protection going forward. Joining us now to discuss is Kyle Scheidler, Director and Senior Analyst for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism at the Center for Security Policy. Welcome to Newsroom, Kyle. Governor Ron DeSantis is planning a state-level investigation while the FBI is conducting their own investigation. It seems like two investigations is better than one in this situation. How should these investigations be handled to truly get to the bottom of what happened?
Well, first, I think we need to applaud Governor DeSantis for his decision to take action on this. States actually have a wide variety of authorities that enable them to investigate these kinds of crimes. They have significant policing powers, and it's good to see states utilizing those. As you heard in the segment, Governor DeSantis noted that state laws were violated, and they have a responsibility to investigate those. In some states, especially Florida, they have terrorism statutes as well that they can also utilize. In some cases, those statutes are capable of providing longer sentences or more severe sentences to perpetrators. So I think it's absolutely appropriate that the state should conduct its own investigation in this case.
Yes, and on Trump's security going forward, everyone across the aisle, including Biden and Harris, seem to agree that Trump's security details should be escalated. One suggestion coming in from former Auburn football coach turned Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville was to deploy Navy SEALs to protect G, and what changes should be made going forward?
Well, unfortunately, the U.S. Secret Service is an organization which, while it has a sterling reputation, has suffered in the past decade or so with low morale and other issues. We saw after the incident in Butler, Pennsylvania, that, for example, they were relying heavily on agents who were not Secret Service agents at all. They were not protective agents. In some cases, they had only received a brief online training about how to be a protective agent. That's simply not the U.S. Secret Service that most Americans expect to be providing security for our president. So I think we do need to get back to that historical Secret Service and the capabilities that they used to exhibit and realize that that's necessary. If that requires utilizing support from the U.S. military, there are authorizations to enable them to do that. They've done that in the past for things like setting up perimeters and the like. So that's certainly something that they can look at. But I think, at this point, all options really do need to be on the table in terms of how we protect President Trump, because as we have seen, this is something that's just going to continue to happen unless steps are taken.
Yes, drilling into that, the acting Secret Service Chief Rowe said today his organization needs to get out of a reactive model and into a readiness model. Can you explain or elaborate your feeling on what he means by that?
I'm a bit curious what he means by that to begin with. The U.S. Secret Service is supposed to already be in a readiness model. They are supposed to be very aggressively investigating individuals who threaten former presidents, as this individual reportedly had done, publishing a book online calling for the Iranian government to assassinate the president and indicating his own support for that. So this is the kind of thing that the Secret Service should have been on top of. They should have been aware of this individual, that he was a threat, and that he was potentially in the area. And if they weren't, then that's very concerning. So again, I think this is, it's not a question necessarily of a new model, but returning to a model that the Secret Service has traditionally used and which has traditionally worked.
Yes, and then moving on to the actual assailants, do you have any credible evidence at this point that might suggest that these assassination attempts were not lone wolf acts?
Not at this point, but I think we need to look at that very seriously. Of course, Occam's razor, the most obvious case, is usually the correct one, and that would be that this individual was motivated by hateful rhetoric out there in the media and on social media in opposition to President Trump. But we also know that he traveled significantly internationally, that he claimed to have contacts and abilities abroad. These things have to be investigated, and that would require a very serious counterintelligence review of this individual, of all of their travels, of all of their potential contacts with elements of foreign intelligence, which may be much more complicated than simply looking at his social media. Just because in public he appeared to be pro-Ukraine does not necessarily mean that he did not have contact with other governments or that he was not recruited under a false flag, believing he may have been operating for one government when in fact he was operating for another. When you enter this world of counterintelligence, you're entering a wilderness of mirrors. And I think we need to very seriously take a look at this individual, where he traveled to, who he may have contacted or met with, if he contacted or met with any individual that our intelligence services suspect may have been a foreign agent. All of those things need to be very carefully reviewed before we can really make any final determination.
Thanks. And while we end here, potentially one positive out of all this news from what happened on the golf course, I'd like to elaborate on your perspective of the actions of the Secret Service agent who had the ability to spot the shooter's gun protruding through the fence and bushes and engaged him with his firearm. Is this typical response, or what would you share with our viewers about that particular agent's solo actions?
Well, I think in this case he needs to be commended. It's a very difficult job, and it requires being able to make snap decisions. As we saw in Butler, Pennsylvania, one of the challenges was the delay in the response from the reporting of a suspect with a rifle to the actual counter sniper response that ended that would-be assassin's life. So in this case, the agent appeared to have responded correctly, responded very quickly. He made a snap decision, and it was the right decision. And so that is what we are calling upon these individuals to do, and that is why it requires a high level of training. And it cannot be done by just an individual with an online course because they are a federal law enforcement officer in some other department. It really does need to be done by specialized protective services of the kind that the Secret Service formerly was known for. And as I said earlier, I think it needs to get back.
We thank you for this, explaining the nuance of what it's like to be on the job. Kyle Scheidler, Director and Senior Analyst for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism at the Center for Security Policy.
Thank you.
Separate robot to cut and peel avocados in seconds to make Chipotle's signature guacamole. Picture? Oh man, Russ, I don't know how I feel about that. Chipotle robots. Well, the Braves fighting